So I gathered some questions. I put an inquiry out online, and you have so many fans that love your music, and they
Oh,
were
that's-
so excited. So I decided to put it in the hands of the fans, and they asked me questions to ask to you for the most part. So,
Let's go, fans.
all right, but the first question is, what is your process like for songwriting?
That's such a great question. The process of songwriting does differ, right? Depending on what type of situation it is. So I'm going to give you guys two situations. The first one is if a producer gives me a track. If a producer gives me a track, then I get to top line to what they've already created. And sometimes the track is at like 70%, 80%. Like the idea is there, and then they'll add the other 20, 30 after I'm done top lining. So that's when we get the intros and the outros, and we make it really good for the movies. But before that, it's just a track to say, hey, this is an idea.
Mhm.
And then I get to write on top of it. That's the usual way we do it. And the reason we let the producers lead that is often because it's a lot of more moving parts in the production, right? You have the piano, you have the guitar, you have the rhythm, you have the drums, and that really sets the tone for what's to come. And then I get to take what my producer friends do and then just add to it with a top line that I know y'all are going to want to sing out. So that's how we come together on that. That's my doggy. He wanted to be a part of the interview,
Oh, so cute.
obviously. Thank you. And then you have the second way. And this is how I do a lot of my own album work. This is how I do a lot of US records, but I'll come up with an idea. And I get ideas everywhere, girl. Like I'm talking about in the bathroom, cooking dinner. I grab my voice note and I'll just sing into it. And then from there, I'll create the track and then I'll send off to my friends and they'll finish it. So you could go either way. It really just depends on how you are flowing that week or that day.
I can totally to relate to getting ideas from random places. Like for writing, I might be washing the dishes or taking a shower. Like, oh, I better write this note. But now,
You don't know when it's coming. You just
right?
welcome it when it does.
Okay, so now I kind of want to know, how did you get your start in the K-pop industry? And how was the journey like so far?
Oh my gosh. So I got my start back in 2013, and my publishers at the time, Harvey Mason Jr. and Damon Thomas, they were the duo Underdogs, which they're known for all of our favorite songs. Okay, like all of the old 90s R&B. A lot of why K-pop even has this sound is because
Mhm.
we were the beginning
Right.
of this movement back in 2013 when we as Americans started going over there.
Mhm.
We were amongst some of the first camps to go to South Korea. So that sound really pushed through once we started going over. And it was amazing. I didn't know much about K-pop, which I always mention in my interviews. I was like, what the heck is the K-pop? What does the K stand for? And my publisher's like, Korean. And I'm like, I'm Black. Why are you asking me to go to Korea? And little did I know, one, we as Black women love us some K-pop. Okay, let's start there. But then two, I naturally had a sound that was already inside of me.
Mhm.
And I didn't know until I got there that what they were looking for, I had. And I always teach my young girls at my academy and any spiritual creative, anyone who wants to create art but feel very connected to themselves spiritually, you don't know what's on the inside of you until you get somewhere and it's pulled out. This is why we say yes to opportunities.
Mhm.
This is why we take chances and risks because you don't know yet. But when I got there, I quickly found out and I decided to take a natural gift, Sierra, and I decided to hone it and skill it. So I could sing, I could write, right? But I still had to practice. I still had to study. I still had to write a lot of songs and make a lot of mistakes before I got the number one or the next number one. And so it's not just enough to, hey, this natural talent comes out of me. But now that I see it, let me make sure I skill it. Let me make sure I steward it well and I take care of it. Right. So between the two of those, that's how my success was brought about.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that's really helpful information for anybody looking to start out to believe in themselves and keep nurturing that talent and that. So I'm kind of curious because you've been in the K-pop game for a long time now, over 10 years, and I've been listening the whole time personally. Mr. Mister by Girls' Generation and EXO, those, those are all amazing artists and really top chart topping songs that people
Wow.
love. And but how do you feel K-pop has changed over the years so far, and how has that affected your work?
How has K-pop changed over the years? Oh gosh, it's had several changes, but
Mm-hmm.
here's the biggest one that I've seen since beginning and now,
Hmm.
right? Is just the more Western sound. The
Yeah.
more Western sound, we're talking all English albums now. Like this just did not exist in 2013 or before I even got there. It was heavy Korean, very little English words, title at max, and maybe the title in the song in English. But other than that, it was all pretty much translated. But now we literally have full English albums. Their accents are getting better, right? They're able to teach and articulate better now that they've had so many years to really practice our English language. So I can hear the sound has changed tremendously. Once we crossed over into the States K-pop, once it started hitting the Billboard charts in the US, you could really feel them opening up to the idea of, okay, let's make it more American. Girl, that was not the case. Back in the day, it was like, we don't want American, right? We want the harmonies, we want the chord changes, but now you'll see a little more repetition. That's a Western thing, right? And so it's exciting. I do kind of miss the old K-pop just a little bit, but I also think because I was so young and I was having so much fun, and now I kind of feel like I'm having to fit into boxes sometimes. But girl, if you know me, I'm not going into nobody's box. So it's interesting, but nonetheless, it's still such an incredible genre.
I was thinking like there are a lot of fans that like to divide themselves in generation, like second generation fans, third generation fans,
Yep.
fourth generation fans, and a lot of people. I guess I would consider myself a second generation fan, and of course that's when I first started hearing your music too. Back then, the second generation. So a lot of people say, "Oh, I missed the second generation of K-pop," and but we are learning to embrace like the new sounds and all the English that they're putting into music. Uh, so I think since songwriting is kind of competitive, I think how does one artist manage to release something that stands out from all the rest? I think you talked about it a little bit, but how do you fight with yourself trying to find that middle ground when you're writing something like, do you go for something trendy or do you just want to make something really original?
Such a great question. Me personally, I have learned to do both. And so if I was teaching to my girls and they asked me this, or to any of my students, I do have a couple guys, but if I was teaching to them, I would say learn to do both, because there is a power in being able to give the label what they want. It's a power for them to say, give me the trend, and you have developed the skill to do that. But there's also a beautiful power in staying innovative, right? And so maybe the percentage isn't 50-50. Maybe the percentage is, if you're not a trendy person, okay, I'm only going to really work on trendy songs 20% of the time. But I'm going to stay innovative. I'm going to keep pushing the bounds, which is my story very much so, 80% of the time. And so you can, but I think it's very dangerous to go 100, right? Because then you're not allowing yourself, one, to stay stretchable, teachable, a student. So I'm not a trendy girl, but if I put 20% into trends, it keeps me on my toes, right? It keeps me thinking, and you want that. You always want to be a student. But then if I have my 80% where I get to really just be me, I'm still satisfied and fulfilled. You see what I mean? So that would be my answer. Give it a percentage and then work that way.
And following along with that, how often do you find that there are many changes between what you worked on and then what gets finally released by the artist?
Now, and it's different for all writers.
Mm.
For my case, it's usually very close to what I did down to the runs. Everything is pretty much kept the same. That's just been my personal story. So I'm very intentional because I know just in case they may keep everything. So from the ad libs in the intro
Mhm.
all the way down to the outro ad libs, very intentional, very much thinking about the artist's range, thinking about what you guys would want to hear after this hook went really big, what type of dance break, how can I do a really cool note into the dance break? Like I'm constantly thinking about what's going to make your experience as a listener and a fan more enjoyable. That is how I create. And so it's very intentional for the artist.
And maybe there was a fan that was curious. When will you release more of your demos for us to listen to?
We need some demos. Let's go. So actually, and I will go ahead and break it here first at KpopWise. I'm actually going to put together a demo album, a nice demo playlist on YouTube for all of the fans because I think it's time. And so expect that in March. And they heard it here first with you, Sierra.
Woo! That's amazing. Your fans are gonna be so excited to hear this. Oh, okay, so who was the artist that was the most fun to work with?
So good. Oh my gosh, Lay is my favorite. Lay from EXO. You guys, I had the biggest crush, okay? He was my boyfriend in my mind. I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that we date. He gave me my Korean name, you know what I mean? So we had a whole thing. No, we didn't have a thing. But I absolutely loved working with him. He's such a beautiful soul. And on the camp with Rodney Jerkins, it was really fun because there's a moment where we're all just in the room, like listening to Rodney Jerkins tracks and like dancing and vibing out. And it was just, I just remember that camp being so much fun. And he's such a sweetheart.
Oh, that's so sweet. And Lay is an amazing artist, so that's awesome that you got to work with him and develop that interaction and bond.
I agree.
Mm. So, are there any other like stories that you would like to share about a song that you worked on?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. I think if I had to, I'm learning as after 10 years, I've learned that one thing you want to make sure is that you enjoy the journey. There's a lot of times I would work on songs, and I would be so worried about it being number one. Or like there was sometimes where I was like, I don't care what it does. I don't even want to really be here at the studio, right? There was always like, but I've learned this beautiful balance of, oh my gosh, I get to do what I love. This is a gift. Let me enjoy it. So I've taken the pressure off of myself and I really genuinely love creating music for you guys. Like, so my question is, whatever y'all want to hear, let me know. Like, I will write for y'all because your pleasure is what makes it so pleasurable for me.
So, there are a lot of artists out. Like there are so many K-pop groups that come out every year, but
Yep.
are there any tracks that you write with a specific artist in mind?
Yeah, I'm always getting leads. We call those leads.
Mm.
Leads are basically when we say, hey, this artist is
Oh
looking
yeah.
for this, right? So I
Mm.
do get leads and I'll create a song for them. But in my experience, I don't know if you've seen recently, but Light Me Up was a guy song that I actually wrote for EXO. And it ended up being on Red Velvet and then released with Wendy as a solo project. And so I'm like, not only did a girl group get it, but then a solo girl got it. And it was written for EXO or The Girls by aespa, which is the highest selling K-pop girl group album in K-pop history, which is they beat Blackpink by 200,000 albums, which insane. Like God is so good. But when I wrote The Girls, it was called The Boys. Again, for a boy group that they gave to girls. So it's I even though you can do the lead, it's going to land where it's supposed to land. So I kind of have trained my mind, just write a good song and it'll find a home.
Okay, so there's a fan that asked me, well, she said that Favorite by NCT 127 is one of her favorite songs. So how was it like working with Dark Child?
What a dream. What do you mean? What was it like? So we were in the States. This is such a cool story. And I don't think I've ever told this anywhere, but we were in the States. We were in California, and a friend of mine and me, another songwriter, we went to Rodney's studio in California, and we all started working on a song, and I was demoing it. And when we came out, he had just got a text about a potential trip to South Korea. And the co-writing friend was like, Chikk does so much K-pop. So as soon as I come out the booth, Dark Child's like, you want to go to Korea? And I was like, what? We're doing a whole US song in California. I'm like, yes, but what? And so I actually was with Dark Child on his very first camp to South freaking Korea. And I still to this day am so honored. I texted him the other day. We're going to do some more K-pop together. But he's such a beautiful soul. And not only did we work on music, he taught us so much along the journey. Like he's a vet. So it was such a beautiful experience.
Wow, that's amazing. So, a lot of fans are curious, is there like more financial benefit for releasing songs in the West or in K-pop these days? And if so, how can fans help support the songwriters into getting compensated fairly?
Whoever asked that is amazing.
Yeah.
Whoever that is, I want you to know that I love you so much. So I don't know the stats because I don't have a lot of American releases. So I don't know what my friends are getting paid on that end of things. I very much get international releases, K-pop, Philippines, everything that's really big with K-pop. But I would say that it is good. It's very good. But I think that there's just tiers to it because the short answer is you have a producer, you have a top liner, which is usually a couple of us, but then you also have the translator, right? So they get a percentage as well. And then you have whoever does post production, they might get a percentage as well. And then you have the person who actually vocal produces the song in Korea after we leave. It's another percentage as well. So there's so many pieces to it. So if this is something you would want to do, you want to learn that you as a top liner is only a piece of the song. And even though it's a very important piece, it's obviously one of the main pieces. We still have to deliver a lot to really see our return, and that's okay. That's why I started Chikk's K-pop Academy because one, it's the ability artists all the time go in there and just drop seeds for me, Sierra. They'll drop. I've had people say, hey, I want to pay for your coffee for the week. So they have this ability to sow a seed into me, which is amazing. But then they also have the ability to invest in themselves and it comes straight to me. So I get to pour out all my knowledge, all this work and years of work and experience, and you might pay $99 for the course. Well, that 99 comes straight to me. No one's sharing it with me. I'll pay my taxes and I'll pay my tithes. But then it comes to me. And not only do I get to see that, but then you get to hear and learn as well. So I feel like the Academy for me is very important in this season, even financially.
Okay, so all the fans hear that. If you want to help support your artists, go look at what they're doing, and then you can support them directly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the
Right.
chickexperience.com. And you can find everything there, Sierra. Everything is there.
And of course, listen to their music too. But if the more the artist who sings the song sells, of course, the bigger cut
Right.
for the top liner. And Chick, you've been very like blessed being able to work with like major artists. So I just think that's wonderful. I love that for you. But we're almost at the end of our interview. But is there anything that we can expect from you next?
Yes. So not only am I going to give you guys the demo album and playlist, that is coming. And so make sure you're subscribed because I'm going to drop the date and all the details, right? So it's the Chikk Experience on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Everything is the Chikk Experience. And I'm also working on my own album. And it has been so scary. It's a little bit of K-pop, it's a little bit of pop, it's a little bit of soul. It's a lot of love. And after years, Sierra, of building and helping these artists live and tell their story, essentially, I'm finally ready to tell a little bit of mine. So I'm so excited for what's next. And I want all of you guys to come on the journey with me because this is not a thing unless y'all are a part of it.
Right. This is all really exciting and amazing news. I can't wait to hear the demo album and your own personal album, and I'm sure your fans will enjoy it. And we're gonna shout it from the rooftops. Everyone listen to Chick's albums. I know I will at KpopWise, of course.
Oh,
We'll always support you, and we love um, Black people making waves in K-pop because
yeah.
it's just important that our presence is there too, because they're inspired by us, so we should have our say in it too.
We
And
should
I,
have our say in it, babe.
you're right.
And
And
you are doing an amazing job over at Kpop Wise. And I know this is just the beginning for you. I know that whatever God has for you is going to be absolutely monumental. So you keep going, you keep pressing, you keep trusting, and you keep showing up because you have no idea how beautiful you are and how needed you are. So thank you for having me.
oh my gosh, that is so sweet, and I really needed to hear that because it gets rough sometimes.
But
So that's this affirmation means a lot to me, and I'm really excited for what you have to come, and I appreciate you talking with me today. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
thank
Thank
you,
you so
sweet girl.
much.
Love always.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.